The story of the Three Kingdoms begins with the collapse of the mighty Han Dynasty, a dynasty that had ruled China for more than 400 years. By the late 2nd century CE, the empire was plagued by corruption, weak leadership, and constant rebellions. The central government in Luoyang had become powerless, while local warlords began rising with their own armies and ambitions. The Yellow Turban Rebellion in 184 CE, led by desperate peasants inspired by Taoist beliefs, was the spark that ignited decades of turmoil. Although the rebellion was crushed, the damage was done. Warlords like Cao Cao, Yuan Shao, Sun Jian, and Liu Bei saw an opportunity to gain power, as Emperor Shan of Han sat helpless in his palace. Real power shifted to military generals and governors. The once united empire fractured into regions, each ruled by ambitious men who claimed loyalty to the emperor, while secretly pursuing their own dreams of supremacy. The court became a battleground of manipulation, as eunuchs, ministers, and generals fought to control the young emperor. One of the key figures during this transition was Cao Cao, known for his cunning intelligence, ruthless strategies, and bold leadership. Cao Cao positioned himself as the protector of the emperor, but his true aim was to rule the empire. Meanwhile, Liu Bei, a distant relative of the Han royal family, emerged as a symbol of virtue and justice, determined to restore the glory of the dynasty. Son Quan, the heir to the Sun family in the south, built a stronghold in the fertile lands of the Yangtze River by the year 220 CE. The Han dynasty finally collapsed when Emperor Xian was forced to abdicate. Cao Pai, son of Cao Cao, declared himself Emperor of Wei. This act marked the official end of the Han and the beginning of the Three Kingdoms era. The land was now divided into three powerful states: Wei in the north, Shu in the southwest, and Wu in the southeast. Each kingdom claimed legitimacy, and each leader dreamed of uniting China under his rule. This period of division, war, and heroism would become one of the most romanticized and celebrated eras in Chinese history. The Three Kingdoms era is remembered not only for battles and politics, but also for the legendary heroes who shaped its course. These men, celebrated in the epic novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, embody loyalty, courage, wisdom, and ambition. At the center of this heroic tale is Liu Bei, a man of humble beginnings who rose to become ruler of Shu, known for his compassion and righteousness. Liu Bei attracted loyal warriors who followed him through countless hardships. Among these warriors were Guan Yu and Zheng Fei, who, along with Liu Bei, swore the famous oath of the Peach Garden, pledging to live and die together as brothers. Guan Yu, remembered as the god of war, symbolized loyalty and martial strength. Zheng Fei was fierce, impulsive, and fearless in battle, known for his booming voice that could frighten enemy soldiers. Their brotherhood became a symbol of unity and sacrifice, inspiring generations of readers and audiences. On the other side stood Cao Cao, often portrayed as both a brilliant strategist and a ruthless tyrant. He had unmatched military genius and political acumen, yet his ambition often painted him as a villain in traditional stories. Cao Cao's charisma and ability to attract talented men made Wei a formidable kingdom. In the south, Sun Quan proved to be a wise and pragmatic ruler. Unlike the fiery Liu Bei or the calculating Cao Cao, Sun Quan balanced diplomacy with warfare, ensuring the survival and strength of Wu for decades. He inherited a loyal army from his father, Sun Jian, and brother, Sun Si, and built Wu into a prosperous state. Advisors and strategists also played key roles. Zhuge Liang, the genius tactician who served Liu Bei, became legendary for his wisdom, foresight, and almost supernatural ability to predict outcomes. His rival Sima of Wei matched him in cunning and patience, laying the groundwork for his family to eventually seize power. These heroes and their stories transformed the chaos of civil war into a timeless saga. They were not just warriors. They became symbols of virtues and flaws that continue to inspire Chinese culture, literature, and art. The rise of these legendary figures gave the Three Kingdoms era a human dimension, turning history into myth and myth into history. The most famous battle of the Three Kingdoms, and perhaps one of the greatest naval battles in Chinese history, was the Battle of Red Cliffs in 208 CE. This clash was not just a military conflict, it was a turning point that determined the balance of power between the kingdoms. After consolidating power in the north, Cao Cao marched south with a massive army, reportedly numbering hundreds of thousands. His goal was to conquer the southern lands and unify China under his control. However, standing in his way were the combined forces of Liu Bei and Quan. Despite being outnumbered, they understood that their survival depended on resisting Cao Cao's overwhelming might. The alliance between Liu Bei and Quan was forged by necessity and guided by the brilliance of their advisors, Zhuge Liang and Zhou Yu. Zhuge Liang persuaded Quan that Cao Cao posed a threat to all, while Zhou Yu devised strategies to exploit Cao Cao's weaknesses. The two sides met at Red Cliffs along the Yangtze River, where Cao Cao's northern troops struggled with unfamiliar naval warfare and a lack of supplies. Zhou orchestrated a daring fire attack. With the wind in their favor, the Allied forces set fire to chains of ships anchored by Cao Cao. The flames spread rapidly, consuming much of his fleet and causing chaos among his troops. Cao Cao was forced to retreat, suffering a humiliating defeat that shattered his dream of immediate unification. The Battle of Red Cliffs not only preserved the independence of Shu and Wu, but also solidified the division of China into three rival kingdoms. It became a legendary tale of how intelligence and strategy could overcome sheer numbers. For centuries, poets and historians celebrated Red Cliffs as the ultimate example of courage, alliance, and the triumph of cunning over brute force. Without Red Cliffs, the Three Kingdoms might never have existed as distinct powers. The battle ensured that the era would continue for decades, filled with intrigue, shifting alliances, and the relentless pursuit of dominance. While wars dominated the headlines of the Three Kingdoms, life for ordinary people continued, shaped by the policies and governance of the rival states. Each kingdom had its own approach to administration, economy, and culture, reflecting the personalities of their rulers and advisors. In Wei, Cao Cao and his successors emphasized strong central control. They introduced reforms to stabilize agriculture, distribute land to soldiers, and reward loyalty. Wei became the most powerful and wealthiest kingdom, benefiting from its northern heartland and larger population. Its bureaucracy was highly organized, and it became the model for later dynasties. In Shu, Liu Bei, and later Zhuge Liang sought to rule with benevolence and fairness. Although Shu was smaller and less wealthy, it gained legitimacy through its claim to restore the Han Dynasty. Zhuge Liang implemented agricultural reforms, encouraged learning, and promoted Confucian ideals of governance. Shu became a symbol of moral authority, admired even by its enemies. Wu, under Quan, thrived as a maritime and commercial power. Its control of the Yangtze River and southern territories allowed it to focus on trade and shipbuilding. Wu also promoted cultural exchanges with Southeast Asia, spreading Chinese influence beyond its borders. Despite constant wars, literature and philosophy flourished. The romance of the Three Kingdoms, written centuries later, immortalized the era. But its roots lay in oral traditions and historical records kept during the period. Values such as loyalty, honor, and strategy became cultural cornerstones. For common people, however, life was harsh. Wars brought famine, displacement, and heavy taxation. Yet many also admired the larger-than-life heroes and found hope in stories of loyalty and justice. The Three Kingdoms thus shaped both the political structure and the cultural imagination of China. Blending reality with legend, the Three Kingdoms era lasted for about 60 years, from 220 CE to 280 CE, but its impact far outlived its brief duration. The eventual victor was not Wei, Shu, or Wu, but rather the Jin Dynasty, founded by the Sima family who had once served as generals under Wei. Through patience and cunning, Sima Yi and his descendants gradually seized control, eventually overthrowing Wei and conquering Shu and Wu. In 280 CE, the Jin Dynasty reunified China, bringing an end to the chaos. Yet the legacy of the Three Kingdoms endures. Its stories of heroism, strategy, betrayal, and brotherhood became part of China's cultural DNA. The novel romance of the Three Kingdoms, written during the Ming Dynasty, transformed this turbulent history into an epic that blended fact and fiction. It became one of the four great classical novels of China and remains beloved to this day, inspiring operas, dramas, games, and films. The lessons of the Three Kingdoms continue to influence Chinese thought. The strategies of Zhuge Liang are studied in military academies. The loyalty of Guan Yu is worshipped in temples. And the ambition of Cao Cao sparks endless debate about morality and leadership. The period also shaped ideas of governance, showing how power can be won through force, but sustained only through wisdom and legitimacy. Internationally, the legacy of the Three Kingdoms spread beyond China. Japan, Korea, and Vietnam adopted many of its stories, strategies, and cultural symbols. In modern times, it has inspired countless works of fiction. From novels and plays to television series and video games, though marked by division and bloodshed, the Three Kingdoms era is remembered as a time when ordinary men rose to legendary heights. Its heroes, battles, and lessons echo through history, reminding us of the fragile balance between ambition, loyalty, and destiny. It was not just an age of war, it was an age of transformation that defined the course of Chinese civilization.